Corporations are not your friends, and I think this is an outstanding example. Google lays off staff from Flutter, Dart, and Python teams weeks before its developer conference. Ahead of Google's annual I/O developer conference in May, the tech giant has laid off staff across key teams like Flutter, Dart, Python, and others, according to reports from affected employees shared on social media. Google confirmed the layoffs with TechCrunch, but has not said the specific teams, roles, or how many people were let go. And this might be a bit of a surprise to you considering Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, destroyed their profit estimates, which included Google making an absolute insane amount of money and beating basically all the expectations. Alphabet shares jumped 14% on earnings bet, first ever dividend. Alphabet shares rallied, extended trading on Thursday after the company reported results that topped analysis estimates, showing soaring profits in its cloud division, and it announced its first dividend. The after-hours jump lifted Alphabet's market cap past $2 trillion. Here are the results. Earnings per share was $1.89 versus $1.51 expected. Revenue was $80.54 billion versus $78.59 billion expected. And then specifically, here's some other of Google services. YouTube advertising was $8.09 billion versus $7.72 billion expected. Google Cloud revenue was $9.57 billion versus $9.35 billion expected. And the traffic acquisition costs were also only slightly higher than expected. Alphabet's revenue increased 15% from $69.79 billion a year earlier, the fastest rate of growth since early 2022. And for those of you curious for how Google specifically did, Google reported total ad sales of $61.66 billion, up from $54.55 billion a year ago. Google's core advertising business is re-accelerating after a difficult 2022 and 2023, when rising interest rates and inflationary concerns forced brands to pull back on their spending. And then this is the real kicker here. Operating income in Google's cloud business more than quadrupled to $900 million, showing that the company is finally generating substantial profits after pouring money into the business for years to keep up with Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. So Alphabet had a phenomenal earnings report, and Google made hundreds of billions of dollars in operating revenue on all the services they offer. And as you might expect, the stock price, looking at the maximum, has basically never been higher. There's been a slight dip in the last day, but for the most part, Alphabet shares are at an all-time high, which is something that you would basically expect from earnings reports that are this good, despite recent downturns in the economy and inflation still being more or less out of control. Also, if you like business news and updates, I post 3 to 5 times per week. So despite the current profits, the absolute destroying of all the expectations, both for Google and for the parent company Alphabet, and this huge expectation of future profits because Google is pouring so much money into AI research, which will probably be very profitable for them, Google laid off workers. And as bad as that sounds, it actually gets worse, as you can see from this tweet. So this is from someone named Dare Abazanjo. Google has laid off their Python Foundation team and asked them to train their replacements who will be in the Munich office. This is similar to layoffs in their finance department a few weeks ago, where some positions were moved outside the country where they're cheaper. And the layoffs purely for cheaper labor would almost be understandable, except the laid off team, the Python team that they were talking about, only had 10 people. This is a post on Y Combinator or Hacker News by one of the people that was laid off. Computer science and techie people frequent this site, and he says, and we did this for years with fewer than 10 people, most of whom love the work on the team so much that we stayed on it for years. Also, despite understaffing, we had managers who were extremely good at maintaining work-life balance and the marathon, not sprint approach to work. As I said to another commenter, it's the best job I ever had, and I'll deeply miss it. With the important part being, and we did all of this, which is talking about their job description and all the things they kept up with fewer than 10 people on the team. Laying off 10 people to shift their jobs to Germany is wild, and there's no way they would save more than maybe $1 to $2 million by doing that. And for a company as large and successful as Google is right now, $1 to $2 million probably doesn't even register. That's like an accounting rounding error. And I honestly don't know what the point of this layoff is. It can't be money because the $1 to $2 million is basically nothing to Google. And TechCrunch also was concerned and did not know what the point was either, and asked Google, and this was Google's response. As we've said, we're reasonably investing in our company's biggest priorities and the significant opportunities ahead, a Google spokesperson, Alex somebody said, to the best position us for these opportunities. Throughout the second half of 2023 and into 2024, a number of our teams made changes to become more efficient and work better, remove layers, and align their resources to their biggest product priorities. Through this, we're simplifying our structures to give employees more opportunity to work on our most innovative and important advances in our biggest company priorities while reducing bureaucracy and layers," he added, which basically means absolutely nothing. Anyone with an ounce of common sense can tell that this is just corporatized PR, just garbage being spewed, because none of this means anything. It's not more efficient to have people moved from America, where the Google headquarters is, to Germany, where you're going to have things like time difference and language barriers and other issues that come with moving your work halfway around the world. This explanation was very probably generated by like Google's Bard AI. So my best guess is that instead of making big sweeping layoffs, which could get the government investigating them, especially considering they made so much money, and making sure that jobs aren't going overseas, because you don't want the government to start investing in other smaller companies to try and rival Google. So instead of doing big layoffs, which might get them some government scrutiny, that they're trying to cut leaders from smaller teams that will force employees to quit so that they won't have to support those teams anymore. For example, if you cut the Python division like they did here, then maybe there are some other teams that relied on the people at the Python division to be able to work efficiently. Without the Python division there, maybe their work becomes frustrating or inefficient, and that causes them to just quit on their own. Now, I could absolutely be wrong, so please leave any suggestions or thoughts you have in the comments. I'd be super interested to hear what other people have to say about Google laying off 10 employees for what seems to be no reason. Thanks for watching.